My friends, as we approach the great Marian month of May, I'm going to ask you to show a special act of love to Our Lady, to your mother and to my mother, to the world's mother. And that is to write a letter to Pope Francis encouraging him to proclaim Our Lady as the spiritual mother of all peoples, the Coredemptrix, Mediatrix of all grace and Advocate. Put more succinctly, I'm asking you to write a letter to Pope Francis asking him to proclaim the Fifth Marian Dogma. Presently, as most of you know, we have 4 dogmas: that Mary is the Mother of God, her Immaculate Conception, her perpetual virginity, her Assumption into heaven. But there's not a solemn definition about her relationship to you and me. Now is the time, this is the hour when we could gravely use an outpouring of historic graces. And that happens every time we have a Marian dogma. There's a tremendous outpouring of grace. Why a letter to Pope Francis? Because consider 2 scenarios. Scenario A is that the Pope would declare a Marian dogma, the highest proclamation of Marian truth, all on his own. Scenario B is where he has millions of people asking him, praying for him, supporting him in giving this crown, this dogmatic crown to the Mother of God. It's scenario B that we want. That's why it's so important that you would write to Pope Francis. Now, I think you'll agree with me. Clearly, there's not been a pope in recent history, if in history at all, that's been more open to letters, to receiving letters from the faithful. Now, there have been already 8 million people who have sent petitions to the popes of the last 15 years to have the Pope do this solemn proclamation. We've had over 600 cardinals and bishops and archbishops write to the Holy Fathers, also asking them to do this. It's almost 100 years since the beginning of the movement started by the Cardinal of Belgium, Cardinal Mercier, to petition the Holy Father for this solemn definition. He started this in 1915, and soon after, over 300 bishops asked the Holy Father to crown Our Lady with this solemn proclamation. And we have the added confirmation of private revelation. The Church-approved apparitions of Amsterdam and the Church-approved apparitions of Akita confirm that Our Lady wants this definition. In Amsterdam, she said over 30 times, speaking about the importance of this solemn definition, that only with the dogma of Mary as co-redemptrix, mediatrix, and of all grace and advocate, only with that dogma could peace enter the world. Why? Because with the proclamation, we're acknowledging Our Lady as the mediatrix of all graces. When we do that, she can mediate as the mediatrix of all graces for our needs today. So, we've got almost a 100-year history of a petition drive for this cause. We've got Marian apparitions which make clear that heaven wants this, and make even further clear that it is a condition for world peace. Our Lady said on May 31st of 1954 that you should petition the Holy Father with the dogma, ask and work for the dogma, and that only with the proclamation of the dogma would we have peace in the world. So for all these reasons, I'm asking you, during this month of May of 2014, to write a letter to Pope Francis. It's very simple. Write to Pope Francis, Vatican City, 00120. Pope Francis, Vatican City, 00120. If you're writing from the United States, that's 3 postage stamps. From different countries, of course, you would consult your post offices and get the right postage. But really, this is simply Catholic precedent. This happened before the definition of the Immaculate Conception. Millions of people writing to the Holy Father saying, Holy Father, proclaim the Immaculate Conception. Same thing with the dogma of the Assumption of Our Lady. Over 8 million people writing in from 1849 to 1950 saying to the Holy Father, please proclaim this dogma. Now I'm asking you to join this rich Catholic tradition and history and the express desires of heaven for a Marian dogma, that you would write to Pope Francis. And just so you know how this happens, the Holy Father has about 4 people who open his mail. And if a letter is really touching to the heart, something they think is really important, they will forward it on to the private secretary. And the private secretary will forward it on to the Holy Father. So write from your heart to the heart of Pope Francis and tell him why this is the time to proclaim a Marian dogma. And if you feel more simply disposed and just want to say, Holy Father, I'm praying for you to proclaim the 5th dogma, that's fine too. But just so you realize that every new pope doesn't go back into the archive and look at the letters that have come before. If you wrote to St. John Paul II, or if you wrote to Pope Benedict Emeritus, Pope Francis won't get wind of that per se. Write to this Holy Father. Express your love of Our Lady and support him in love and respect in prayer, but convey that this is the time, if it is, of course, the conviction of your heart, this is the time for Our Lady's crowning. Heaven wants it. The world needs it. The Church would richly benefit. So, once again, write a letter to Pope Francis. Pope Francis, Vatican City 00120, and let's do our part in honoring Our Lady and leading to this great crown, which will be a historic event, the Fifth Marian Dogma, the fifth and final definition about Our Lady, her relationship between you and me, and which will affect the graces necessary for peace in the world as per her promise. And Our Lady always keeps her promises. This is Mark Miravalle saying thank you. God bless.